Okay, so this is a video about how to use solder and the butane flame to form a straight track, or just really make connections in general. It's going to be the same process either way. It's also called braising, so if Mr. Schulman or I refer to the word braising, that's what we're talking about. So, a couple things that you need. You're going to need 2 pieces of straight track. You want them to be very, very straight. You don't want them to be bumpy, because that will reflect in the way that the marble goes across the track. So these ones are already made nice and straight. You need 2 jigs here to keep the wire also elevated off of the table, but also keep the wire the same distance away the entire time, because we've already measured out this distance. We want to make sure that we keep it uniform throughout the entire track. You need, for your safety procedure, we need goggles. You need to be wearing goggles at all time. You also need a mask that looks like this. I'll put it on right before I start braising. You need solder, and you want your solder to be extended out at least about 6 inches, because this does conduct heat as well. So as soon as you put the flame on it, if you're too close to your finger, you could burn yourself. So you want to keep it about 6 inches away. You need flux gel, which we use to help the metals bond together, the solder and also the other metal bond together. We need metal sandpaper, which looks like this. And we need a butane flame and a lighter. So before we do anything, the first thing we want to do is you want to take your metal sandpaper and you want to sand everything down so that it's nice and shiny. So you can see it gets nice and shiny. You don't have to sand it a bunch, and it gets pretty shiny. And the reason we do that is because it helps the metals to bond together. It must be the cleanliness, I'm not really sure why. Okay, so it also, when you're sanding down this metal, creates grooves that help the solder to bond better with the other pieces of metal. So thank you, Mr. Schulman, for that tip. Okay, next we're going to need some sort of cross support, and you want it long enough so that it's going to extend across both tracks, and it's going to hang over on either side. So it doesn't have to be super long, it just has to be long enough that it can get across. So I'm going to do about 1 inch. Okay, so I also want to sand this down, make it nice and shiny, for the same reason that we sanded the other metal down. Okay, cool. That's pretty good. Let's do a little more. Okay, cool. So then you're going to take this flux gel with your brush or with any sort of applicator, and you're going to just apply it to the area where you want to solder. You want it to be far enough away from the wood that you're not going to be in danger of burning the wood, because we all know fire and wood do not really get along. So again, another thing that we have to make sure that we're protecting ourselves is this piece of aluminum foil, because again, we don't want the flame going directly down on a wooden table. That would not be good. So instead we use this aluminum foil. Helps to reflect the heat and also the light. Okay, now I am ready to go. I'm going to put my mask on because I don't want to be inhaling these fumes that are coming off of the solder and the metal. Okay, so when I'm ready to ignite my torch, I'm going to do it with my left hand. I want to light it fairly quickly, because as soon as you turn the switch on, gas is going to start coming out, and you don't want a bunch of gas in the air around you. You want to light it fairly quickly. This has a safety on it. You have to hold this forward and then ignite like so. So I'm going to turn it on and just hold it to the tip until I see the blue flame here. It doesn't have to be very long. You want it to be maybe about 1/4 inch, so that's pretty good. Okay, ready? Okay, so I'm going to try this one more time just to show it in clear, plain view. The switch is right here. I'm going to flip on the switch and light it fairly quickly until you see a constant blue flame that comes out like so. So you can just kind of hold your lighter flame there until you see that blue flame. That's how you know you're ready to go. So this is lit. I want to face it away from myself, also away from any wood. Now I'm going to take my solder, which is again extended about 6 inches. I'm going to bring the solder in from one angle and the flame in from the other angle. I want to keep the flame about 1 inch away. There's enough heat coming off the flame that you don't want it to be too close, because it's just going to melt the solder too quickly. I'm going to touch the solder down right where I want it to come in, bring the flame in on the other side until you start to see the solder liquefy, like so, and then I'm ready to pull the solder away, keep the flame on it for a couple seconds so that the solder will suck in underneath, and then I'm ready to go. and that's finished. I'll try that process one more time. So again, bring the solder in, directly touching where I want it on the other side. Okay. Then I'm going to bring the flame in, not too far. I want it to be about 1 inch off where I want my connection to be, because otherwise it'll melt the solder too quickly. I'm going to wait till the solder liquefies and then bring the flame down so that it sucks underneath. And then when I'm finished, I want to blow it out. If I blow it out, then I have to turn the switch off very quickly, because again, we don't want gas blowing out into the atmosphere right around you. Otherwise, you can just turn off the switch and then the flame will go out on its own. But again, I'm going to put this down in a spot where I'm not going to touch it, because it's also very, very hot. And then usually we would have a wet sponge here to cool this off really quickly, because this right here is also very hot and I could burn myself. And now we are finished.